Yeah.
Yeah, we'll begin. We'll begin. All right. Okay. Welcome everyone to one more episode of Petition Group's webinar on some legal matters from our experts in any field. So this time, as you all must have read in our invite, we have with us Advocate Prashant Pandey, who will be guiding us on how to prosecute our public servants who, you know, indulge in non-implementation of laws or corruption or any such things, out of their duties. So we'll have this talk on PowerPoint, which our host, Mr. Neeraj Pathak, will uh, coordinate, and Advocate Pandey will be speaking. Acha, initially, we'll be keeping everyone on mute, and it's preferred that you all, as you go along or just now itself, start writing your queries in the this thing in the note box, so that our uh, uh, host will be able to note it down in his notepad and keep asking once the Advocate Pandey's talk is over. Hmm? So, little introduction before I hand over the mic to Prashant ji. Uh, Dr. Advocate Prashant Pandey has been a legal counsel since July 2013 till date, and his qualifications are: he's a Bachelor of Engineering, then an MBA, then an LLB, and LLM. Okay, and he's been in legal practice since 2000 September 2011. Mainly he's into criminal litigation and white collar crimes, economic offenses, MPID cases, and fraud litigation. Civil disputes too he has handled, and civil writ petitions too he has handled, and on appellate and original side. He has independently handled criminal trials at Sessions Court of Mumbai and Metropolitan Magistrate uh, of Mumbai. He has appeared for several private companies such as Ernst & Young, Godrej, Wipro, Siemens, etc. in courts, and also on advisory board of various government departments like Department of Information and Technology, etc. And of course, he is affiliated to several NGOs too, like he's been a part of our petition group also, informal group. So a little background about petition group also I would like to give to everyone. We are a group of activists who have been you know networking with each other, inviting experts to guide us, to be with us, and supporting our fellow activists to the best of our ability, like legal guidance or maybe financial help, or standing by them with the authorities, police or municipality or wherever needed. So this is the way we strengthen each other's hands, guide each other, empower each other, and encourage more and more citizens to speak up wherever required. Okay, our website is www.petitiongroup.com. People who wish to be a part of it can fill up the form over there. Join the group is the link tab over there. You can fill up the form over there if needed. Okay, thank you very much. So we'll be on mute as usual, and please put your queries in the note box. We'll keep taking up, and kindly be specific in this. Kindly do not write something that's non-understandable by the host, because then he'll not be able to take up the question with Advocate Prashant ji. Okay, so I hand over the mic to Prashant ji. All the best. Take it up, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Oraji. Thank you for the lovely words. And I hope I'll be able to justify today's topic. The topic is very wide, and Constitution speaks about it, that every person in this country is equal. But some people who get a particular position think themselves as someone who is unequal. So how to bring back them to the normalcy, that is bringing the corrupt to the right place. This entire presentation will be on how to prosecute the corrupt. I am not specifying which department, let it be legislative, executive, or judiciary. Any pillar of the basic pillars of the Constitution. If they are corrupt, they are bound to face the prosecution. Let me start with my presentation. I will try to cover as much points and as much law which is there, there are many things which are not covered by law. I will tell why it is not covered by law. Can I go on to the next slide? So I have I have picked up the basic definition of a public servant. So public servant as defined in Prevention of Corruption Act has several meanings. Anyone who is associated with the government vertical, anyone who is doing legislative work, who is doing executive work, who is doing judicial work. The definition goes exhaustive. I would not rather read. It is specifically in section 2C of the Prevention of Corruption Act 1988. The next slide, I will not, the presentation will be circulated with everyone. I will not get into each and every wordings which are there in the presentation. Next slide. Now, corruption is defined at different places, at different countries have different defined corruption in a different way. Now, I have picked up from several key NGOs. One is Transparency International. So we define corruption as abuse of entrusted power for private gain. What are the examples? Public servants demanding or taking money or favors in exchange of services. Politicians misusing public money or granting public jobs or contracts to their sponsors, friends, and families. Third, corporations. These are private corporations bribing officials to get lucrative deals. Now, second is bribe. There is a difference between corruption and bribe. A sum of money or other inducement offered to bribe someone. Now, corruption can be in government. Bribe can be also in privates. There can be a bribe between two parties to settle an dispute. That may not form the part of corruption. Their gratification is defined under section 7B of PC Act, Prevention of Corruption Act. What is gratification? Is getting pecuniary gratification or anything which is quantifiable. For example, getting a gift, getting a gold chain, getting a money. Anything is gratification which can be quantifiable. There is one important term while we discuss corrupt is many times a lot of people will say that I am not corrupt, I do not act. Something for something is also corruption. So someone may act upon particular information, someone may not act. Someone who is supposed to register an FIR did not register an FIR is nothing but quid pro quo, which means that I am helping so that I may get something. Not acting for some where you are supposed to act is also corruption. The next slide, please. Now, how do you overcome such cases where there is a clear corruption? You have to give a detailed complaint. In criminal procedure code, I will be majorly covering criminal procedure or the criminal angle to a corruption. The civil angle I am not as of now touching. So, criminal procedure code 1860s defines under section 2D what is complaint. A complaint has to be made with clear allegations. You may not give the evidences, you may give the allegations that a person had taken money or demanded money on this date. You may or may not have evidence, and you can give these complaints to several forums. For example, for a police, you can give a complaint to the police commissioner, you can give a complaint to the police complaints authority, you can give a complaint to the human rights, you can give a complaint to the Bombay High Court or whichever High Court you are from. The next slide. Now, there are a lot of people who have this apprehension that we don't have a locus standi. Now, Prevention of Corruption Act states specifically where can anyone file a complaint? Answer is yes. If it is loss of a public exchequer. Now, other side, that is the CBI or police station or any investigating agency is not taking cognizance is a different issue. They do not want to work is a different issue. But do you have a locus standi? In criminal procedure, there is no definition as you don't have a locus standi. What Prevention of Corruption Act says is this: whether the appellant has locus standi to file complaint for prosecution of offences alleged committed by public servant under the Prevention of Corruption Act. There is no provision either in 1988 or Criminal Procedure 1973 which bars a citizen from filing a complaint for prosecution of a public servant who is alleged to have committed an offence. So this makes it clear, neither CRPC, neither the Prevention of Corruption Act bars anyone who knows that there is a corruption which has happened. Now you may not have an evidence. A complaint is always an allegation. The investigating agency does the investigation and gives the entire facts before the court. Now I have highlighted few. If you see at the bottom of the slide, there are few sectors which I have highlighted. This is 2012 report of Ernst & Young, which says that these 4 sectors have majority corruption. First is infrastructure, second is metals and mining, third is aerospace, and fourth is power. These 4 sectors in India constitute to approximately 60% of the corruption of the country. Next slide, please. Now there are several acts which cover the law in regards with prosecuting the corrupt. Now, Indian Penal Code, there are several sections. Section 166A. There are other sections which deal 409, 406, where if a person has volunteered to not take cognizance of a particular offence. One is Indian Penal Code. Second is Prevention of Corruption Act, where there are the definitions and how to deal with the corrupt officials, what is gratification is being dealt with. Third is FCRA, Foreign Contribution Regulations Act, where a lot of people have received the foreign money. In fact, there are few cases where they have started imposing FCRA guidelines prosecution against the NGOs. Now, in Companies Act, also there are certain sections which deals with corruption, where in their balance sheet they try to hide the corruption as the marketing expenses. They try to bribe several officials to get their work done. Even for that, Companies Act has certain sections. I will deal with that sections if required subsequently in another presentation. But as of now, I am going broadly only on the acts. Then there is a Central Vigilance Act. If you have complaints against the several UPSC appointed cadre, you can complain through Central Vigilance Act. You can complain through Lokpal or Lok Ayukta Act 2013. There is a lot of people now can complain if you find that a person, a politician who is not getting a salary of 80,000 and has 4 Fortuners and 10 flats. You can complain to the Lokpal, you can complain to the Central Vigilance under Central Vigilance Act. You can also complain to the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. How does the money is getting flowed? You can also complain. There is a new act in 2015 called Black Money, Undisclosed Foreign Income and Assets Imposition of Tax Act. You can say that if a person who is having salary of 40 or 50,000, he has 5 flats, and a person who is being a CEO and has only 2 flats, you kindly see that there are black money. Either he should disclose his sources, or there should be an act, or there should be an offense which should be made out of the 2015 Act. Then there is recently there is an introduction of Fugitive Economic Offenders Act. There Nirav Modi is being booked off. There is an Income Tax Act. Many times you see assets which are not disclosed. There are assets which are huge and humongous to a lot of public servant. You can give a complaint under Income Tax Act. Then in Constitution, for protecting several government citizens, they should not be removed directly. They should not be terminated. There should be a due process of law of inquiry before termination of corrupt is under Article 311. And there are certain rules which are to be followed. Let it be a state cadre, let it be a central cadre. And these rules are Civil Services Rules, All India Services Rules 1968, rules regarding assistance of government servants in criminal cases, and Central Services Rules 1965. These are the several rules which are being followed when there is an case or there is an inquiry pending against the officials, against the corruption or any other misconduct which they have done. Next slide. Now I would come to several agencies which handle corruption. One is the local police station. I'm talking only about the criminal part. Local police station, their anti-corruption bureau, which is pathetic, I would say, at least in the state of Maharashtra. The conviction rate is minimal. The prosecution rate is very minimal. Only people who are not esteemed get prosecuted. The next comes is central agencies like CVC, CBI, Enforcement Directorate. There is something called as Serious Fraud Investigation Office, which is in regards with frauds in the companies. Then in regards with if you have a complaint against the police officials, you can approach the Police Complaint Authority or State Human Rights. And obviously there will be a magistrate court and high court if you have a complaint against any of the agencies above who has not worked. You can complain to either magistrate or the high court. The complaint follows as per the Criminal Procedure Code. You have to follow the 154.1, 153, 154.3, 156.3. Now, what are the hurdles? Now, when the law was framed, whenever any complaint is filed, for example, there was wrongful confinement of a person, or I saw a person taking bribe at the traffic signal, you go and complain, and there is an FIR registered. Many times, while filing the charge sheet, there is no sanction. Sanction is you have to take a sanction from the appointing authority. In Indian Penal Code, it is 197 of the Indian Penal Code, which states that judges and the public servant has to have, for prosecuting them, you have to sanction. Now, this is protection given only for a very limited scope, that is, while they are discharging their duty, if they commit certain offense. For example, if someone takes money in their office, that is not discharging of their official duty, there is no sanction required. So, a lot of people have this fear that what if there is no sanction? Sanction is only when there is requirement of, while discharging their official duty, they commit an error or they commit a crime. Only then sanction is required. The same way in section 19 of PC Act is only when cognizance has to be taken. There is a difference between filing a complaint and cognizance by a court. So section 19 of PC Act is also sanction where it is requiring only in regards with taking cognizance. So I have specifically mentioned there is a difference between filing a complaint and taking cognizance. I may file a complaint, the court may not take cognizance. So at that stage, what is a stage of cognizance? Once a cognizance is taken and summons are issued to the accused, whoever is corrupt or whoever has done the wrong act. Once the summons are issued, it is said to be taking of cognizance. Now, the third step, why there is an hurdle, is that there is no mechanism, no accountability of the Corruption Bureau. And investigation, it is, as they say, they quid pro quo, where person who is investigating is himself a government servant or a public servant. He being fair or being inclined towards the public servant is higher than the person who is complaining. Always you see PC Act, there is a delayed trial. Jayalalitha got convicted way later. In fact, Sasikala got convicted as late as 2015 or 16. So the case was of 90s, a color TV scam. So the delay of trial is one of the biggest hurdle in comparison of other trials, criminal trials. Third leg is that prosecutor who is prosecuting has no incentive and has no will to get a conviction. So whenever there is a complaint which you are interested, I would suggest that you apply to the state government that I want to be either appointing my own lawyer to prosecute the case, or you give a special public prosecutor. You would at least have more inclination to get a conviction. Next slide, please. Now, I would speak more on this slide. So how do you prosecute the three pillars of the democracy? Like, to give today's recent week's example, Prashant Bhushan was called for contempt, an 11-year-old contempt petition, which was, he had mentioned that 60% of the chief justices of India were corrupt. For that, for this statement, he was being taken to contempt, where his father, who was the then law minister, says that I want to implead myself. He is such a stalwart in law who had convicted, he was the person who appeared for Raj Narayan and got convicted Indira Gandhi. Person of that stature stating that 60% of the previous chief justices of India were corrupt, and still they are the person who makes this statement is getting prosecuted. It is a very sad state of affairs, but now we have to deal with it. In fact, one of the very stalwart in the field of law states that judiciary never meant to keep a check on entire parliamentary decisions. Now, right now, what is happening is entire parliament makes a law, and two judges of High Court or even Supreme Court overturn the law. So they basically overturn the entire country's will. Like, for example, NGSC was being overturned. This was not the what was in the mind while framing the law or framing the democracy for the independence of judiciary. Judiciary should remain for only interpretation, not making the law. Right now, there is lot of judicial overreach. They are stepping lot on the legislative and also in executive. Now that is in regards with the judiciary. Let me focus on the three pillars, that how can we prosecute them. One is executive. Executive is president, police, IS officers, any government employees connected with the state government, central government, local body. Executive, you have to file, again the step is you have to file a complaint to anti-corruption or the local police station. If it does not stop there, there is no action, then you have to approach the department head. If even it does not stop there, you have to approach the chief secretary or the governor. If it is a central government agency, you can approach the CBI, CBC, Lokayukta, State Human Rights, High Court. Now what we have to see is state government, the biggest asset the state government or executive has is their chair, and that is also the biggest liability. If they have a complaint pending in their ACR, what is full form of ACR is annual confidential report. If annual confidential report shows that there is a complaint pending, their promotions will get stopped. Their service book should reflect that there are certain complaints pending. Their promotion will get stopped. They will not get the recognition which they want. So many times writing letters or complaints may we can ensure that this ACR and service book of this government servant or public servant gets affected by our complaints. The next part I would come is legislative. Legislative is the elected officials. So there are certain acts which speaks about this. One is the Representation of People Act. What is happening is horse trading right now. Not a single person till today has been convicted or even charge sheeted for horse trading. Second is Representation of People Act. These were the two acts which were being framed during the Nehru's time in order to prevent people from crossing over from one party to another. But again, till today there is absolutely no law which prevents horse trading or rather jumping of one politician from one party to another by taking the gratification. Now till today very few legislatives have been convicted. I have noted few. One is one Mahant Channath. He had represented BJP from Rajasthan. He got convicted for 1 year for land grabbing. There is Jagannath Mishra from Bihar. He was Chief Minister of Bihar. For fodder scam along with Lalu Prasad Yadav, he was convicted. Then the third is V. Sasikala. She was convicted for 4 years for color TV scam. But the trial took approximately 18 odd years. Then at Lalu Prasad Yadav is the most controversial politician. He is being right now tried in 8 cases. 2 cases he has already been got acquitted, and he is convicted in already 5 cases in fodder scam. Now we have to understand that legislative also uses corruption as a tool to get in power or to harass the other side. One is political tool. I would say these are examples. One is P. Chidambaram was being prosecuted. In fact, is being prosecuted. Second is Amit Shah was prosecuted for Sohrabuddin. So the government changes and you start prosecuting for several other cases which may or may not be true. Vendetta, the moment the chief minister changes, for example, Lalu Prasad Yadav, in order to suppress someone, Tejasvi Yadav is being investigated by ED, CBI, so that he supports the BJP, the government in power in Bihar. Recently, in Haryana, many cases were dropped against a particular party. That was bargaining power, which was there for the political party to get into power. Dushyant Chautala did it, and many now political dynamics. They are right now in registering FIR against people who had done CAA, NRC agitation. These are only to show that I am having a particular political dynamics, and these tactics are being used time and again by the legislative, using either the several acts which are there defined or using their political contacts. The third leg of the democracy, or third pillar of the democracy, is judiciary. I would say the Supreme Court and the High Court is almost the Supreme Court judges and High Court judges are absolutely immune. Till today, there is no impeachment, not a single impeachment in the country, and there are several acts which protect them. In the lower judiciary, there is protection by Judicial Officers Protection Act, the Judges Act 1985, Judges Enquiry Act 1968. Now, Section 7, 228 and 345 of IPC states that even judges can be prosecuted. But how many judges have been prosecuted? Answer is no. There is absolutely 0 cases of prosecution of judges. Again, the reason is sanction. Suppose a judge takes favor of one person who is absolutely corrupt, and we have evidences of even exchange of money. Even if we go and the judge is being prosecuted, while filing the charge sheet, if there is no sanction for a judge for getting a sanction, it would be the Chief Justice. And if he does not give a sanction, there is a hindrance under Section 197 of IPC. In regards with High Court judges and Supreme Court judges, Article 124 and 218 are important, where their impeachment is being discussed. What we can do is we can create a record that tomorrow, if we want to recuse a judge, that please do not decide my case because you have acted in this way, or in my case or other case. We can file documents on affidavit. If it is a lower judiciary, we can or a subordinate judiciary, we can write a letter to the Registrar Vigilance. There is a office called Registrar Vigilance, which looks after into how do we tackle the complaints against the judges. And a district, whichever district it is, the district judge of that particular district. In regards with the High Court judges, we can write to the Chief Justice of that High Court. But can a Chief Justice of a High Court remove a justice from the same High Court? Answer is no. The only work a Chief Justice can do is assign him some other work. He cannot remove. The only process is impeachment, which is 2/3 majority of the Lok Sabha and half the majority of Rajya Sabha. Now there are 4 cases or 5 cases which are which were impeachment were initiated by India. One is Justice Ramaswamy of the Supreme Court. He had spent luxuriously when he was a Chief Justice of Punjab and Haryana High Court, but he was never impeached. Second is Justice Sumitra Sen from Calcutta. He, when he was liquidator, had siphoned and rather opened certain bank accounts where the money which was being used for selling several assets, there was a clear money trail, but still there was no impeachment, which went to a final stage. Third is Justice Dinakaran from Sikkim High Court. He was again involved in several financial frauds, but he was not impeached. Interestingly, Justice J.P. Pardiwala, at least one of the houses, initiated the contempt, and there was certain positive response where a lot of people passed a appropriate motion. Reason for him to getting impeached is he commented on reservation in the country and corruption. The moment, so he was one of the houses actually impeached for this wordings of him being used in his one of his judgment. What he had to do is he had to remove those wordings from the judgment, and that impeachment motion was being dissolved. Another was CVN Reddy, where he was involved in several financial scams, but there was no logical end to the impeachment process. So practically till today, if you become a High Court judge or a Supreme Court judge, you are as immune as God. There is absolutely no mechanism which will either remove you or either initiate proceedings against you, except few people who are being prosecuted. Recently, Justice Shukla from Allahabad High Court, where he was caught red-handedly in regards with the medical admission scam. There was no impeachment, but he was asked to take a voluntary retirement. So he will, even though being corrupt, enjoy the retirement benefits. Next slide, please. Now, for a government servant, what will be the action? I would not read out the 17 steps which are there involved for a government servant while there are proceedings against him for a misconduct, for a corruption. I will just read it at a glance. Lodging a complaint of misconduct, holding a preliminary inquiry, consideration of report of preliminary inquiry, then official show cause notice is given to the person who is responsible for the corruption or any misconduct. Then after show cause, he replies, there is a charge sheet which is being filed. After the charge sheet, there is a scrutiny by disciplinary authority, appointment of an inquiry officer, legal assistance to the other side who is corrupt, attendance and examination of witnesses, submission of inquiry report, show cause notice to the delinquent employee, submission of reply by consideration of past records of delinquent official, penalty if penalty or conviction, whatever we call it, and final order. And he can also appeal against this order in MAT or CAT, wherever he is being employed. If it's a state government, it will be Maharashtra Administrative Tribunal. If it's a central government, it will be Central Administrative Tribunal. Now, what can be a departmental action if someone is corrupt, other than the criminal court, which will be dealing with the Prevention of Corruption Act or the Indian Penal Code Act, Indian Penal Code trial? There will be departmental action. One is he would be suspended. Second is there can be a possibility he may be terminated. Third, he will not have a promotion or ad hoc promotion till the entire name gets acquitted. There will be salary deduction or no growth. There might be a compulsory retirement which will be forced upon him, or rather given to him, that if you retire compulsorily, we will not take any actions. Generally in government, there are certain GRs which says that until you are convicted, there will be no termination. And there will be no promotion stopped until you are being arrested. So for example, if there are certain PC Act cases initiated against a particular government official, if he is not arrested, there will be no suspension. And if he is not convicted, there will be no termination. Next slide, please. Now, I have mentioned time and again in my previous presentations also, there are many mistakes which a common man does while dealing with any type of complaint. So many times these are, when you go and give a complaint, you are being given assurances. You go with an oral communication, you don't go with a written communication, you don't go with the documentation, you don't go with a valid proof. You don't know if that man asked for 5,000 rupees, maybe 3,000 was the expenses for doing a particular job. Maybe someone from municipal corporation, if they had to say repair a particular thing, the repairing would have costed 3,000, so I should have given 3,000. So ignorance of law, that municipal corporation's job is to do the municipal work. Third is, we do not, whenever you give a complaint, you do not do an alternate mode of service. You have very limited scope. You make allegations which are very short, like I saw him doing this. There is never a complaint which should be a hearsay complaint. You should be a direct evidence to that particular crime. Don't operate self. You try to write to several authorities. No legal opinion sought. In fact, I would rather say, if many people from petition group have knowledge of in regards with how do we prosecute this, or either a lawyer or whoever has understanding that how do I deal with these criminal complaints. And don't stop when one level starts giving answer as no, go to the next level, go to the third level, go to the fourth level. Don't stop unless you get an answer. What are the remedies is, you should get a written receipt of every complaint which you give, written communication, you keep a documentation. If possible, keep a valid proof. If possible, be aware of law. For example, now under public servant definition, private banks are covered because they are dealing with public money. Use of at least 2 modes of service. Keep end in mind that how do the trial, what will be the evidences, if required, I have to produce those evidences before the investigating agency. If possible, how do I produce those evidences? Take a opinion. Again, as I said, don't take answer no as an answer, and don't stop in a hierarchy. So again, I have time and again said that if you go as small complaint as if you go to a police station and he is not taking your complaint, call on 100 and write from the police station, say the entire facts on 100 number. There is now, you can also email the said facts before going to the police station. You have emails of several police station and also the commissioner of police, so that you create a record. People lie, documents will not. So do's and don'ts are, you mention everything under 100, go with a statement, get a receiving date of incident, time, facts of each minute detail. Do not do is go to a police station and try to give an oral complaint. Go to the police station with a duplicate or triplicate copy, and in your complaint, don't give your opinion, give facts. Don't give that there is an offense under this section. Don't give this opinion. Let the police or investigating agency do that. Next slide, please. Oh, okay, wait. The previous slide, sorry. I would say, how do we go ahead is, you complain to several agencies. For example, there is a corruption of, say, a land mafia grabbing a land. You write to the municipal corporation. You write to the state authorities, that is urban development. You write to the police authorities. You write to the RERA authorities. You write to the Central Vigilance Commission. You write to the CBI. As many now, because of digital age, you don't have to spend much. You can write them through email. So a lot of people have this apprehension that how many times, how many letters should I send? I said, you don't have to. You can, now it is now being digital world. You can create record by sending emails. There is a specific complaint authority. There is a government body where you can complain. Public Grievances Committee. You can write to them. And you keep following with these authorities. You keep asking under RTI, you can directly write to them without RTI that I have given a complaint. What is the status? Let it be municipal corporation, state government, central government, central vigilance, enforcement director, any authorities. As I say, if possible, make a repository, like how petition group are there. Like suppose I am filing complaint against, let us take a builder's name, say Lodha. If we have a repository that 5 people in this group are complaining against Lodha, we have a repository, so we can fight together. We can write to authorities that, see, 5 people have written about this illegality. Why are you not doing? And if this is not the case, then you can take the next step. You can approach the court of law, that is magistrate, or even for that matter, if you have a good case, to the High Court under the writ. Third, try to create evidences as many as possible. Like in evidences are RTI replies, evidences can be a video, evidences can be photographs, audio calls, several government documents which you have gotten by writing letters. Evidence can be anything. Let the investigating agency decide what is evidence, but as far as possible, you also try to collect it. You are not an investigating agency, but whenever required, suppose investigating agency is inclined towards the culprit, you can always produce those evidences. Use social media. This is the new tool. Along with electronic media, you can use social media, use Twitter, use Facebook, whichever platform you can, Instagram, whichever platform you can, to complain about authority. Nowadays, lot of people have image. If you write that this is what corruption is going on, suppose illegal act is going on, to save their image, certain actions are taken. If you show this on Twitter, to save their image, lot of municipal corporators, lot of municipal corporation officials, lot of state government officials, lot of central government officials start taking action because they want to get promotions, they want to get recognition, and to show to the people that I'm doing something. The social media platforms are working. And we should not forget is also right to the appointing authority. Whoever is the appointing authority to this particular person, let it be legislative, judiciary, or executive, you have to write to the appointing authority that this is the complaint against this official. So in totality, you should not stop till you get an answer that what you want. And it is an uphill task, but there are a lot of people who are being very effectively being prosecuted. You have to keep hitting the nail again and again till it penetrates the wall. This is what it is. We are, as a common man, we have to file a complaint of a public servant who is corrupt at a public servant, that is, say, judiciary, to ask him to decide, and which has to be investigated by a public servant, which is police. So it is an uphill task, but it is not an impossible task. We have to keep hitting the nail again. That's the only thing which I can say. Next slide, please. I think it should be the end of the case. So there are several important judgments which, right from CBI versus Ramesh Gali. I have given many cases. I can quote 10 more cases. I just wanted to focus on few important cases which are being decided. I think I have exceeded the time. No, I have not. So it's almost 50 minutes. So I am now end the entire presentation and leave it open for the question and answer. Over to you, sir.
Nice. Thank you very much, Prashant Panditji. As you all have seen, friends, Prashantji has expressed his, given us a, very lucid explanation about how to, prosecute our corrupt public servants, the errant public servants. Okay, wonderful it is. At the same time, he has given his, company's name, the group name, mobile number, and the email ID. If required, you may get in touch with him. Now, friends, of course, queries would have come. There are, of course, queries coming in on the chat box. And I request the host to kindly read out so that Prashantji can, explain, give an answer to those one by one. Neerajji, please pick up the questions, please.
The presentation can be removed.
Yes.
Prashant sir, I'll start off with the questions. The first question is how to prosecute a government official for inaction on a complaint and how to prove corruption in such matter.
Can you just repeat? How to
prosecute a government official
okay.
for inaction on a complaint which has already been made, and how can the corruption be proved in such matter?
See, unfortunately, ineffectiveness is not a crime. If you are suppose you write to a municipal corporation, any ward, that kindly see that there are certain illegal hutments which are coming up, kindly remove them. If they do not remove, you can keep writing to their appointing authorities, and you can write to the highest level, that is the chief secretary, stating that his duty was to take an action. If he is not taking an action, then under 166A of the IPC, where he was supposed to do an act, he did not do for reasons best known to him, kindly take action against him. So at least in his service book and in his ACR, annual confidential report, something will be mentioned. But if you say that how do I prosecute for inaction, for example, can I prosecute a police for not registering FIR? Answer is yes. But has any police got convicted for this? Answer is no. The next step is you go and file a complaint before the magistrate. The same way, if a person is not doing any particular activity, you approach the High Court under writ jurisdiction stating that, see, this person was supposed to do an act. For example, removing the hutments are not removed, you either take action against the person or remove the hutment. If this is one way. Second is you can file a complaint under section 166 of IPC before the magistrate. But I find it very uphill task for getting convicted, because ineffectiveness is not a crime in the country of India. This is my answer.
So the second question is how to prosecute the deputy registrar for misusing power and favoring the culprit who has violated the law, and all the evidences are provided against such culprits.
So someone who is doing quasi-judicial work like registrar, he has certain protection in regards with, always one party will be unhappy with a judgment or an order vis-a-vis the other party. So he cannot be majorly prosecuted unless you show that there is money exchange, or the order is very bad in law where he did not even understand law. So you have remedy under the appeal court. But are you able to show that he is grossly corrupt, where he has ignored everything? Then you can complain to the in this case it will be the Department of Registrars, or it will be Cooperative Societies, the department, where you can write to the minister, and if minister does not take any action, you can file a petition in the High Court. But again, I am saying prosecute. Every party who has not got a favorable order will say that the judge is corrupt. For this, there is Judges Protection Act. You have to go much beyond that. The judge was corrupt. You have to show the exact evidences. You can't say that because I did not get a favorable order, the judge is corrupt.
So the third question is sanction under 195 CRPC required to prosecute the government officials?
If he is doing his official duty, for example, I am trying to arrest a person and that person tries to evade my arrest, and I fire a bullet and this bullet hits his leg. So can that person prosecute him for hitting or a 307 attempt to murder? Answer is no. He was doing his official duty. One. But one of the judgments says that suppose a person goes to register an FIR and that complainant is hit or rather slapped by the police official, go away from here, I am not going to register an FIR. In that case, prosecution can be launched, because hitting the complainant for going away from the police station is not in his official duty. his official duty is to register an FIR. So someone who is doing his official duty and in that duty some act is committed, then sanction is required. If someone is not doing his official duty, suppose he is found taking cash, taking money is not the official duty. So in that case, sanction is not required at all. But for example, he beats an accused who is running away, then possibly the sanction may be required because it is his official duty to apprehend the arrested person. So sanction is only required, and I understand sanction is required for taking cognizance. For filing complaint, it is not required. So if you see that there is ineffectiveness and you file a complaint under 166A, if a magistrate says that you will require sanction, you have to answer that it is at the time of taking cognizance and not at the time of filing complaint. Next question. I hope I have answered the question.
Sir, we'll move on to the fourth question.
Yes.
In case we want to detect corruption occurred in roads with regards to the road works, such as repairing or improper roads, what are the various ways in which we can proceed?
Every road work has something called a measurement book. It is like inventory of whatever material has been purchased. So measurement book, any road is constructed in a measurement book. What will be the concrete, what will be the cement, whichever tar in a particular percentage. And we ask for an audit. And if the audit report of that particular road says that the measurement book is not as per what was the tender, it is purely a corruption. For example, 10 things are ordered and you get only 7 things and you paid money for all 10 things. The remaining 3 things which were not even supplied is corruption.
Sir, we'll move on to the fifth question. What happened to delays the matter and we complainant about this person? Okay, so he's talking about the delays which happened in the complaint regarding any person, in which we complained regarding, and he gets transferred. Then what can be done in such cases?
Is it before the investigating agency or before the court? I did not get the question.
So not mentioned.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll move on to the next question.
Yeah. He can ask the question later.
Correct. How can a superior official be prosecuted for trying to save his subordinate by framing incorrect records or giving a wrong reply?
So framing incorrect records, you can prosecute him under. I need to see the section. But if you manipulate the records, there is a provision in Indian Penal Code. I will speak if I do not have the Indian Penal Code right now, but I can tell you there is, if you manipulate anything. For example, the previous question which was asked, measurement book, like for a particular road, if there are 10 things required and only 7 things were supplied, 3 things were not supplied, and he manipulates that all 10 things were supplied, and if there is an audit and if it is found that these 3 things were never supplied, then manipulating records, it is nothing but forgery or manipulation of records under 471 of IPC, if I am right. There are other sections also, but for sure there is 471. In one of the road scam registered at Kulaba police station, this section is applied. Next question.
Can a magistrate order FIR on a IAS officer if approached under 156 subsection 3 of CRPC?
He can, magistrate can order an FIR under under 156(3) against any person who is not immune. For example, he can ask for registration of FIR against the chief minister, or even for that matter prime minister, if the complaint discloses the crime. No one is immune except president and the governor of a state.
So we'll move on to the next question. If a public servant is involved in an offense under IPC, which has been confirmed during investigation, would sanction be still required in such scenario?
If he is doing official duty and that act is done in discharging his official duty, For example, a person is employed as a bank servant. Say he is a bank employee of say Punjab National Bank, and he gives loan to Nirav Modi. Let us take that example. And his seniors said that okay, kindly give signature, forward this proposal to the higher committee, and higher committee, based on the auditor's report, gave the loan. Now based on this, if the person was doing his official duty, has done everything very diligently, sanction will be required because he was doing his official duty. Every day he does sanctioning of loan. He might have distributed 10,000 crores of loan, and out of that 10,000 crore, only 50 crore got defaulted. That does not mean he did a crime. But if he did not see the audit report, if he overlooked the valuer's report, if he for a loan of 100 crore took only guarantee of 1 crore, which is against the RBI guidelines, then he has not done his duty, and for that his sanction is not required.
Okay, the next question is there any provision under Indian Constitution to prosecute Secretary of Department for his non-action?
There is an act which is there, which states a minimal service guarantee, but again, he can be prosecuted under Indian Penal Code for inaction, for 166A, but he cannot be prosecuted for not working. He always can say, I had 700 files, out of which I cleared 650. Yours was 699th. So prosecuting for ineffectiveness is today, as of now, 2020, it is not possible. Maybe 2030, 35, we can, when everything is online and we can know when our complaint, and if it is first in first out process, only then we will be able to say that he did not do this work purposely. As of now, we cannot say that. Next question.
Sir, we are done with the questions.
Okay.
Neeraj ji, I believe a few people would like to ask directly. Perhaps is it possible to unmute them? One or two people have requested. Neeraj?
Yes, sir. I'll start off with KVJ Rao, sir. Okay.
Okay.
Sir, KVJ Rao, I have unmuted. Yeah.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Prashantji, good evening. There was a question asked whether you can prosecute a public police officer. I have got orders, 3 orders under 156(3), and they have now rushed to the High Court. And the High Court asked them, how can you say you can't be prosecuted? So it is not difficult to prosecute a police officer. Provided you have all the documents in place, you can prove the malefides. He has no protection under law, any act for that matter.
Yes.
And like I said, like you've given a lot of citations, and I'm thankful for that. There are many other citations also where, see, earlier, like if one citation which I can talk about is the Institute of Chartered Accountants versus Vimal Kumar Surana. Till that point of time, everybody was saying, you need sanction under the act only to act against the officers. But that judgment proved to be very detrimental to all the public servants, because it said there are 2 things. Under General Clauses 26, you can't prosecute him twice. But if there is no complaint under the act and IPC is maintainable, the magistrate has to pass the order.
Yes.
So people can use this. Like, I'm a Pathin person, sir. I'm not a lawyer, but I've studied the criminal law because I've been harassed by the police. So I met them. I exposed corruption in the aviation industry. So it is not impossible. The problem is you have to have perseverance and patience.
So I would add one step to this is, whenever you have documents to prove, I would be the last person who would suggest you to file 156(3). I would ask you to file a complaint under section 200 and prosecute directly under 204. Now the difference is, if you file 156(3), the FIR gets registered and investigation is done by the police. Under section 200, 204, the cognizance is taken. it is as good as charge sheet is filed. Only difference is in 156(3) there will be an FIR and there is a possibility of arrest. If you are confident enough, you have papers to convict a man. He's seen with all the documents which you have. You directly start with 204. That is as good as framing the charge, and subsequently you can get him convicted. And in that part, what is good is you are prosecutor for your own case in 204. In 156(3), it is the public prosecutor who has very least focus on prosecuting your case.
Yeah, once I get the interim relief is vacated, I'll be filing under 302 that I would like to be the public prosecutor. I would be taking that process.
So
See,
I would always, if suppose say Natarajan ji has all the documents which are essential for prosecuting a particular authority, I would suggest him not to go under 156(3).
Yeah.
Go under 200, 204, directly start the trial.
No, I understand, sir. But I've done 156(3) with another intention, because my public servants, once they have an FIR, there are a lot of restrictions on their movements. Whereas if I go for 204, it becomes a time-consuming process. Once the FIR is lodged, it helps me in putting a lot of public servants in track.
Again, the framers of law, while making Indian Penal Code, if you have committed an offence of even 302, police has a discretion that police may arrest you.
Yes. Correct.
So if they are found with a police official who has 1,000 crore cash, police may arrest you. It is not mandatory for an arrest.
Correct.
And public servant arresting a public servant, there is exchange of money, exchange of hand. It is only it is exchanging from 1,000 crore. He will get to 800 crores.
Yes, sir. Sir, like I have sought sanction of prosecution of a High Court judge, and it has created such a big problem.
I can't unmute.
No, you can't, sir. I think the host only has to do it.
Sorry, sir. There was some issue with my connection. I got disconnected for a moment.
Yeah, just allow Alex, Clarence, and Natarajanji to speak.
Sir, I cannot allow everyone at once, so I'll have to
not at once.
One by one. Okay.
Consecutively, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Sir, we will take the question from Mr. Hari because he has been waiting since a while.
Yeah.
Mr. Hari, you can go ahead and ask your question to Advocate Prashant Pandey, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for unmuting me. Prashant ji, very good evening. It was a very beautiful talk, very enlightening for all of us. I have a small question. See, as you said that we have to follow the hierarchy, you complain to officer, then his higher officer, and then finally reach to his department head. What is the general observation what we see? I write a letter, for example, if I'm writing complaining about ward commissioner or DMC to the municipal commissioner. Now, municipal commissioner, I write by his name, personal name, so that he's accountable, he's responsible, he's the one who has to reply to my letter directly. But what he does, he just forward to his one of his subordinate for necessary action. Does in such case, as he's transferring to his subordinate, does his accountability is diminished or diluted as he's transferring to another person? But my letter is addressed to him as in person. For example, Ajay Mehta. If my letter is addressed to Ajay Mehta, even if I go and file a case, Ajay Mehta himself has to come to court, not his subordinate. Because if I insist that I want him in person, so he is the one who is accountable. So in this case, yes, sir.
Next time, I would suggest to add one more line.
Yes.
I don't know if you are adding that line or not. This complaint is addressed to you in person, and kindly do not delegate the work which is not permissible in law.
Okay. I'll mention that. Okay. Thank you.
Sir, next.
In fact, if you read MMC Act, there are certain sections. If I think 475. I need to get the MMC Act, which says that certain work can be delegated and certain works cannot be delegated. Issuing 351 notices, 354 notices is being given to a particular authority, and it cannot be delegated. Like municipal commissioner can't say that okay, you are JE, go and demolish a particular building. There are certain works which can be delegated, certain works which cannot.
Clarence, sir, please.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I can hear. Can you hear?
Yeah.
Yeah. Acha, my query actually I had written down also. What we see across the cities about specifically because this land mafia thing, most of the time illegal construction is done in connivance with the officials. And the moment you raise a complaint, the first thing they do is, after issuing a notice, go and get a stay from the city civil court. And once that stay is granted, and then for that stay is never vacated for ages. So is there any scope actually where this is not just one ward to ward, it's across Mumbai, across everywhere. So what is the scope in this case? How to address this issue?
So the one way is, first of all, this 351, 354 people approaching the city civil code under suit is not permissible. There is a Justice Oakes judgment which says that only remedy lies in 351 and 354 of MMC Act is High Court under writ. If they are going to the city civil court and getting a stay, immediately someone who is involved or getting affected by that stay should approach the writ court. Let the writ court say that you are not a party in this suit. All you have to say is there is a judgment by a division bench of Bombay High Court. There cannot be a suit which can be filed. I might be a third person, but I am getting affected because there is a road, there is a water, or whichever getting affected because of this.
No, but recently I feel there is a 2018 judgment, which was actually given that rights to person to approach the city civil court. Actually, city civil court has to hear. No, it is not actually petitioner has a right to approach actually, get relief from the city civil court.
But all I'm saying is, see, they're getting relief, and how does he get a relief? Now, suppose without, there are many instances without getting into the facts because you don't have time. Many judges pass an order due to paucity of time without getting reply from the municipal corporation. They get a stay, and this municipal corporation never bothers to get the stay vacated.
Correct.
So anyone who is affected should immediately approach the High Court. This is what I suggest.
No, even when you go to the High Court, then again the issue comes of locus standi. Even recently, you must be aware, even one of my matter was actually withdrawn because of that locus standi issue.
The locus standi in that happened because it was the person who was involved was available. If there is no person, for example, a hutment which has been there, and this hutment is blocking the road. So in that case, you can justify the locus standi. And if that is the case, we can always come to the court that how am I not having a locus standi when a particular illegal thing is affecting my rights in regards with municipal rights, say the road or water, whatever it is. If it is affecting my rights, it is causing me a problem. In one of the cases which you are referring was in regards with the person was available. Let him be in jail. If a person is not available, for example, there is a hutment next to a church. Any person who has problem with using that road can approach the High Court stating that if a church authority or maybe a temple authority or a masjid authority is not taking that issue, that is none of my concern. If he is blocking a road, he is affecting me. How am I not having locus standi in a right which affects me?
No, I have one other thing actually. Even in my neighborhood, actually, I have noticed in Kalina actually, there are 20 cases pending in the city civil court filed by one person for illegal construction. 20 cases are pending in the city civil court. So for last 4 years it is pending. So I feel, what is the remedy?
For that. We'll file a PL for that.
Okay, fine.
Clarence sir, there are a few others who want to ask.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Sir, next I will unmute Mr. Alex. He has been wanting to ask a question since a very long time.
And Shiv Narayan.
Yep, Alex sir is there and Natarajan sir is also there.
Thank you, Neeraj, and Prashantji, thank you very much. My question is, can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear you.
Yeah. My question is, the basic thing what we all face is delays, and even in the court of law, there are delays which derails the whole system. So, for example, in the registrar, that gentleman is there for 3 years. He will try to delay the matter as much as possible, and he'll try to, linger it, because he knows that he's going to get transferred, and then he gets away very easily with the transfer, and we people are still stuck at the same place. So, do you have any kind of remedy to attack such guys?
I have a remedy. I don't know. Many times, for me at least, that had worked. For example, registrar tries to pass on and give you a date of 2 months.
Correct.
I have filed a writ immediately stating that let registrar decide the case within two weeks.
Okay.
The High Court says that no, I can't give it 2 weeks. Let it be decided within 4 weeks. Okay. So my 2 months gets to 1 month.
Fantastic. Good. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Sir, next is Mr. Natarajan sir.
Yes, question or questions?
Natarajan sir, please go ahead.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, I know. Hi, Prashant.
Hi.
Excellent. I learned a lot today. And I think I'll get more hammer and tongue now. But the point is that there are two simple points, which I don't want to get into too lengthy discussion on this forum. Is that when they forward the document, like one gentleman said about forwarding documents to the lower officer, while forwarding the documents to the lower officer, does the responsibility also get forwarded of the higher officer? No, that is the point.
First of all, he cannot forward it. There is no provision of delegation of work. For example, let us take an example. Chapter proceedings have to be initiated by DCP. He can't say the senior PI, okay, you look after the chapter proceedings against a person. He's a land mafia, you prosecute him. He can't do that.
No, I'm not talking about quasi-judiciary powers of such, but I'm talking normal officers.
Public servant can't transfer. Suppose you have addressed a complaint to him, you can't give it, delegate it subsequently to something to.
Well, I have a case in last 5-6 years. I must be having at least thousands which are forwarded down the line, and then it gets dead. Now, recently, just yesterday, I sent to Chief Minister and specifically addressed to him the points. He, as his practice in the last 5 years, they just pass it on to Secretary UDD 2. Now, I wrote another mail which said, please don't do that, because for the last 5 years you have been doing that you have been sending to Manisha Patankar, and now you're sending to Mahesh Patakar. Nothing happens, because I have met Manisha also. That mail also they sent it back to Patak. So this is the chief engineer DP, for example, Vinod Chitore, goes on passing down the line, and the down the line passes to his down the line.
So next step again, as I suggested to the previous question, we file. The best part about when you go to High Court is you ask for any relief, they will never give it. But if you go to High Court stating that I want this authority to decide within 4 weeks, they will immediately pass an order. Okay, decide within 4 weeks. Yes. That's the easiest order we can get.
Correct. And my general approach has been all these years, 5 years is not to go to court at all, and to attack the department and get the resolution as much as possible at the department level, attack the officers.
I would say that the approach changes once there is an order of a court. Suppose whatever you are doing, if you approach the court and say that, look, I have been giving complaints for last 5 years, there's nothing which has happened. Ask them to decide my complaint, either decide the complaint or not decide my complaint. Let it be done within 4 weeks.
Yeah, that is true. That's true. That is
It's
true.
called let the representation be decided,
Correct.
and immediately you will get some relief for sure.
I agree. I agree. I agree. Thank you. Thank you, Prashant. And good to see all of you.
Virtually.
All the best.
Thank you. Yeah, Shiv Narayan ji has.
I've unmuted Gautam. So Gautam, you can go ahead and ask the question. Sir, we'll take the Shivnarayan's question after this.
Prashant ji, thank you for a brilliant session. I just want to ask you a slight deviation. If while fighting a government official we go to court and our own lawyer gets influenced by the opposite party, what is the simplest remedy to deal with that? I mean, your own lawyer, if he's makes frivolous charges, or starts blackmailing you that you pay me this much, otherwise I'm not going to give your documents and things like that. So I mean, it's a slight deviation, but I just want your 2 minutes.
First of all, changing the lawyer.
Yes, sir.
One, changing the lawyer. Why am I echoing? I don't know. Hello.
Sir, I have unmuted him. I think the echo was from Gautam Center. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, change the lawyer. Second, no client can be denied documents because he has not paid to the lawyer. You can approach the bar council that I want my papers. This lawyer was ineffective. As simple as that. You can't deny the client documents only because he has not paid you or he has not succumbed to whatever your demands were. Lawyers do day in and day out. I do not deny that. We are not washed from the milk. But if anyone does it, take him to the bar council. Bar council again does not act. I don't think any lawyer in entire India would have got punished till today. At least I have heard that at least 1,000 complaints go every day across India, but hardly anyone gets prosecuted or taken any action, disciplinary action for misconduct. But vis-a-vis, you can get your papers for sure. Bar council, you will get your papers. No lawyer can deny you papers, at least that I will not give you papers because you have not paid fees. This is professional misconduct.
Shivnarayan ji, I have unmuted you. Please go ahead and ask your question.
हेलो
Yeah, I can hear.
हाँ
सुन रहा हूँ मैं, बोलिए जी.
हाँ ये करप्शन होता है, जो करप्ट ऑफिसर और ये मिलकर के सरकारी संपत्ति का नुकसान या चोरी ये सब होता है. उस मामले को जो उठाता है, एक टीम बन के उठाती है, तो उस स्थिति में एक तो उनके ऊपर एक्सटॉर्शन का लगाया जाता है, दूसरा उनके ऊपर झूठी एफआईआर करके उनको अंदर करवा दिया जाता है. अब यहाँ पर कुछ चीजें ऐसी होती है जिससे ये क्लियर होता है कि जैसे 2 या 3 पॉइंट ऐसे ऑन रिकॉर्ड रहते हैं जिससे ये साबित हो जाता है कि पूरी एफआईआर झूठी है, कंप्लीट है, खाली ऑन रिकॉर्ड है. सब हम ऑन रिकॉर्ड मजिस्ट्रेट को बता सकते हैं. तो इस स्थिति में हम 195 का यूज करके जिसने हमारे ऊपर यानी कंप्लेंट की है, एफआईआर करी है, उसका इस्तेमाल करके कैसे इन लोगों को इमीडिएट राहत दी जा सके. अब मान लीजिए 10 लोगों की टीम है. अब उसमें अगर सामने वाला यानी इनको मौका ही नहीं मिल रहा, झूठी एफआईआर है, पूरी ओपन एंड शट है, लेकिन सामने वाला ऑफिसर जो है आईओ, वो इन लोगों को बिल्कुल पस्त करने के लिए, मतलब परेशान कर डालने के लिए सबको मार पीट के किसी ना किसी तरह काम करता है. वहां पर अगर कोई ऐसा है जिसकी वजह से इन लोगों को हिम्मत मिल सके, बाकी लोगों को, कि हाँ नहीं हो, ऐसा नहीं होगा, तो ऐसा कौन सा रास्ता हम निकाल सकते हैं इसमें?
इसमें सिंपल है सर. जैसे आपने झूठी कंप्लेंट की, ये बारे में आपने उसने पैसा खा के या सामने वाले को फेवर करके एफआईआर ली, ये आपने लेटर लिखा है?
सब लिखा है, पूरा ऑल कंप्लीट है. ऑन रिकॉर्ड सब दे दिया, ऑन रिकॉर्ड दे दिया.
उस लेटर को नेक्स्ट स्टेप, अगर वो पुलिस एफआईआर नहीं ले रहा है खुद के पुलिस ऑफिसर के अगेंस्ट, 155(4)(3) में जाइए, कमिश्नर को लिखिए, उसके बाद सीधे मैजिस्ट्रेट के पास चले जाइए कि दिस इज व्हाट हैज हैपेंड और ये फैक्ट है. एंड जो पहली आपकी एफआईआर है उसके क्वेश्चन के लिए चले जाइए हाई कोर्ट. मैजिस्ट्रेट अगर उसको सामने से भी दिख रहा है कि एफआईआर बनती नहीं है तो भी क्वॉशिंग के उसके पास पावर्स नहीं है. नो मैजिस्ट्रेट कैन क्वॉश कॉग्निजेबल ऑफेंस और an FIR which discloses cognizable offense. Only the High Court can quash an offense which, because if that offense is non-compoundable.
अच्छा, अभी 195 का यूज करके हम वहां से 340 के तहत कुछ एविडेंस हम मंगवाएं जिससे वो पूरा मैटर पूरी तरीके से ये हो जाए कि फल्स है उस स्थिति में, तो क्या ऐसा कुछ तो कहाँ जाएंगे हम इसमें?
कोई भी केस में 340 195 आने तक आप उसके पहले क्वॉशिंग करवा लेंगे, पहला चीज. दूसरा चीज 340 195 प्रोसीजर जो है, you can't initiate, you have to file a complaint, magistrate has to initiate. Magistrate may feel, magistrate may call for reports, whatever it is, it may take time. Parallelly आप prosecute कीजिए उसे 156(3) डाल के 200 डाल के. ठीक है, आपको लगता है पुलिस वाला है, सामने वाला पुलिस वाला एक्शन नहीं लेगा, 200 कंप्लेंट डालिए, रोज कोर्ट में तो बुलाइए उसको, एंड उसके प्रमोशन तो रुकाइए. एज ऑफ नाउ तो वो कीजिए, आगे देखेंगे क्या कर सकते हैं.
अच्छा, मीन्स तब तक जो हमारी टीम है, टीम टूट जाती है, टीम के साथ जैसे 10 बंदे हैं तो वहां 2 बंदे रह जाते हैं, 8 बंदे हट जाते हैं. तो ये सब चीज हो रही है.
8 बंदे वीक थे, मतलब
वो तो है, वो तो पूरा
मेरा तो सिंपल कंसेप्ट है, आप एंड तक लड़ना है. ऐसा नहीं कि आपके ऊपर 2 एफआईआर हो गए तो आप रुक गए, तो फिर द होल पर्पस गेट्स सॉल्व. एफआईआर इज जस्ट एन एलिगेशन. अभी मैं बैठा हूँ, अभी कोई मेरे अगेंस्ट कहीं पे दहीसर में एफआईआर कर रहा होगा कि मैं चोरी कर रहा हूँ, मैं तो रोक थोड़ी ना सकता हूँ. करे भाई, एफआईआर करो, जिसको करना है करो. एफआईआर इज जस्ट एन एलिगेशन. इन्वेस्टिगेशन रिपोर्ट इज आल्सो जस्ट एन एलिगेशन कन्वर्ट हिज फाइंडिंग. Unless the court takes in cognizance, it is not a crime.
Okay, ठीक है. ओके, थैंक्स. और कोई क्वेश्चन है? लेकिन
आपके ऊपर एफआईआर हुआ, अभी कॉग्निजेंस नहीं लिया है. जब कॉग्निजेंस लेने जाएंगे तब दिखाइए जितना एविडेंस. कॉग्निजेंस नहीं लिया जाएगा.
ओके, थैंक्स.
Any other question?
Sir, we are done with the questions from participants. We will allow Gaurang Vora to just finish off with the webinar.
Yes.
Gaurang, please.
I'll take over. Panditji, one minute. Prashantji, a few of our members had given perhaps they were unable to express it so well. So they had requested me to take up these 3-4 points with you, Prashantji. One is, constantly they find that, irregularities occurring or, officers not acting on their complaints and gross violation of laws. Now, is it possible that is there a particular standard format of a letter, which complaint letter, which could be used by us activists for us complainants, which what do you say, makes them act on our complaint, something that will threaten them or something that will they might feel that abhi to kuch karna padega, Is it that way? Do we have something, or what we do is okay? So you have given your allegation, and that's sufficient. Is it that way?
I feel there can be made forms or formats, but unless there is a order from any court or any superior authority stating that you have to act within 4 weeks, you have to take action, either dismiss the entire complaint or take actions. Unless that pressure is there, no one will act. For example, many times you write to Chief Minister forwards it to you, UDD or municipal corporation, nothing will act. But the court says, act within 4 weeks. If the complaint is false, say that it is false and complete it. You can't sit over a complaint. That's the reason I'm saying maybe 2030, when every complaint will be online and no physical complaint, the officer will be able to justify that even though my complaint was 3rd, the 4th complaint was taken up and resolved, but 3rd complaint was not. Give me a justification for that. But as of now, it cannot be done.
All right. Now, the Delayed Discharge of Duties Act, you must be aware, transfer of officers and the long name it has got, 2006 or 2005 something.
Which I could not hear you properly.
The Delayed Discharge of Duties Act, Official Duties Act, you must be aware. Now, that came along with almost RTI, So, in this act, at this point of time, we activists feel that the law is ineffective for whatever reason. Though it has good, sections and all that, provisions. But how do we make it effective? These officers or the seniors don't take cognizance of it. When we bring it to the notice of the superiors, the junior officers don't get penalized on that. So is there something in addition to delayed discharge of duties act which we can use to make it more effective?
The only thing which comes to my mind is you file a complaint before the magistrate that he has done an offence also along with IPC, offence under delay in discharge of duties act. But I don't think in India anyone has got convicted ever for delay in discharge of duties act.
On implementation. Okay. Now, someone has said that, IAS, IPS officers, the UPSC cadre, for them, there's a separate law which, takes them to task. Is it that way? And the other, MPSC people or this other junior officers, there's a separate law. Is it that way?
Yeah, so the central cadre have a central act and the state cadre has a state acts. For even the rules are different, but if someone is corrupt, there is a standard act. You can directly approach if he is ineffective, he is corrupt, you can approach under a IPC or Prevention of Corruption Act. In regards with his ineffectiveness, your complaint is not being taken for 3 months. For that, you can approach either CVC if you have a right evidence that for reasons best known to him, you can approach CVC. If it's a state cadre, you can approach the state department. But according to me, these rules will be just delaying. Chor chor mosere bhai wala hisab hai.
Understand.
The next step is you have to approach court again. God forbid, court does something.
Yeah, good. That's one little consolation. Now, we were speaking recently. You were speaking about this locus standi issue. Clarence also had taken up this issue. Now, all this is fine. Locus standi, ye wo tu kya hai, tu wahan ka nahi rehta, and all those things. But CRPC section 39 by itself gives the citizens the power to complain. Now,
complain the criminality.
Achha.
Suppose something which is illegal construction is not a criminality; it's a civil wrong.
Achha. Okay.
You prosecute, if you want to prosecute anything which is criminality, it is the police station and not the municipal corporation.
Okay.
Municipal corporation is for a civil wrong, except some act which is MRTP, which has a prosecution to it, or some section 475 which is illegal construction. Other than that, which is civil. So if you are prosecuting the criminal wrong, section 39 will apply.
Okay.
But if you are prosecuting the civil wrong, section 39 will not apply.
Oh, is it so?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Neeraj, are there any more distinct queries to be taken up? Neeraj?
No, sir. There are no more queries to be taken up. We can conclude the webinar. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Advocate Prashant Ji. Okay. For explaining in detail, patiently to everyone, every query put forward to you, Prashant Ji. And let me inform our audience over here a few things regarding our next seminar which we plan to hold. One of our viewer over here is Advocate Nazir Jagirdar, whom we plan to have give a talk to us on next Saturday. Of course, we'll let you know the details about the topic, like we have told about Advocate Prashant Ji. That's the next time. And our viewers today who wish to, once again, I'll wish to remind them, viewers who wish to be a part of the petition group, WhatsApp group, or otherwise, do visit our petition group website. There's the join group tab over there. Fill up the form, and we'll do the needful after that. And so with that we conclude. Thank you everyone over here for giving us lucid questions, very clear questions, and of course Advocate Prashant Ji for answering them patiently and to the point. So thank you very much. Let's meet again sometime next week. Prashant Ji, thank you very much.
Thank you. I hope I was useful.
Yes, indeed, no doubt about it. Huh? We'll appreciate everyone's feedback on our petition group website, or directly to us also, to myself, Clarence, or Neeraj, or someone. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.